Evening and welcome back to Factorio. So today we find ourselves again, the Dong of Doom, pendulously hanging above the moist, soft bits of Gleba. And what we need to go and do is basically bring justice and purging, purgatory, who cares, to the Stompers. This is we've gone through this concept. You get the concept. 100 Spidertrons led by a valiant, beautiful, very, very well endowed general, which is obviously me. And we are going to that's probably the nicest thing I've ever said about myself. There you go. And we're going to go and basically bring justice to the five-legged weirdos. Now, quick question. If anyone watched the film Arrival by Denis Villeneuve, you may recall that they were pentapods, weren't they? So maybe there's some sort of spacefaring capability from these little Gleba and weird things. But the point of this is really just to try and finish off the concept of, do 100 Spidertrons make a huge difference in anything? So let's just go through the list of what we've done so far. Nauvis, yes, definitely. 100 Spidertrons, well, they kicked bottom, is fair to say. They really did do a good job. There, look, they stand in their camp ready to fight and kill and destroy. I was very pleased actually with how it went. You can see what I'm trying to do here. This turns out to be an utter disaster, and I really wish I hadn't done it this way, but anyway, there we go. This is the process of learning, is the realization that half of those Spidertrons are badly fit with many different modules. I thought I'd keep it in because, hey, let's have a chat. But I do like the Gleba base, and I think it's something that does need a bit of a tidy up. So I thought I'd just show a bit more of it running. I don't know, maybe not. One of the beautiful things of having a YouTube channel is that you kind of try and work out what you enjoy doing. And I think there's definitely a sort of, again, Marie Kondo style spark joy. Everything you see here in the screen now is of immense satisfaction to me. It is very enjoyable. And I know it's not going to work because it's going to try and load the Spidertrons with equipment that we don't have. Yada, yada. Who cares? Sit back, sip your cup of fine tea and enjoy the process. In fact, that reminds me, a quick aside. I remember when I first went to the United States. I went to a place in New York for work. And I always remember being the thing about British people that many foreign people don't quite understand is we become more British the further away we are from Britain. I'm sure it's the same if you take a Frenchman, put them somewhere outside of France, they become more French. You know, their idiosyncrasies, the way they are, it kind of is different. But I found myself, I became truly Lord Toffington Smythe, the English country gentleman. Every time I went to the United States, I always found this, particularly New York, where everyone would always just sort of stop me in a bar and say, oh, could you just say something? I just want to sit and listen to you, which was always a nice compliment, I guess, but I never really appreciated the linguistic capabilities of my voice. I always was a bit like, I must sound like a sort of toilet flushing with very expensive bleach within it. That's how my brain thinks of my voice. Anyway, the aside was, I remember going into the I guess we call them hubs in the office. It's where you go and basically make a cup of tea, cup of coffee and so on. And I remember looking around for ages thinking, where's the tea? And in the end, I sort of put my head over one of the cubicles of one of the lovely ladies working in the office. And she sort of looked at me like, oh, the tea's there. And I'm like, really, where? Can you show me it? And she came round and she picked up what was called a tea pod that you put into the coffee machine, and then, like the coffee pods, you know, the Nespresso or whatever they are, and then you press the button and then tea comes out. And I remember thinking, what is this? This is like when you kind of imagine a space traveller comes back and hands you a time wand, and you sort of hold it in your hand and go, oh my days, has this been a thing all this time? And then I made one. The process was it was joyous. It burbled, it made lovely noises, and then, you know, it added the milk as well. And I'm like, oh my days, this is incredible. And it did it the right way. It made it first and then added the milk, and then I'm like, oh, this is great. And then I drank it and it tasted literally like Satan had spat in it. I think the only time I can remember a worse taste in my mouth was when I was with your mum. No, I'm not going to go down the easy route there. It was when I fell asleep at a party in a garden, and I woke up with my tongue out my mouth, literally covered in grass and earth. And I remember thinking, well, that was still better than this cup of tea. Anyway, I digress. I don't know why I tell you these stories. They jump in my head. Where we are, I think, with Gleba is this has been a bit of a balls up already. So mustering the army, as you can see, we've got basically all the wrong, all the wrong equipments in them. So you're going to witness a little bit of editing to try and just kind of quickly redo it. And what I found is that to sort of set up a little invading army like you see here is actually hard. What I should have done is what I did here, basically create a blueprint and then just copy and put it everywhere and allow the bots just to produce and deliver it and then get it done. I wish I'd done that, and I think this was my learning point from the whole thing. In fact, if I'm going to kind of subphrase Gleba's 100 Spidertron assault, it didn't go well. They didn't lose too many Spidertrons. They're quite effective. I think actually quite the opposite. They're amazingly effective. So actually there wasn't really much of a challenge. It was, it's all a bit like having relations with Bonnie Langford. Slightly disappointing and, should have been better than you thought it was, but nah, it just wasn't right. And if you don't know who Bonnie Langford is, I'll let you Google that one. So overall, I think the Spidertron kind of 100 Spidertron challenge, which has been going around the solar system, it comes to an end. Many of you, I'm sure, would be glad to hear, because I know it's been relatively painful. The demolishers demolished me, so yeah, not good. The biters, it worked. So I think certainly for Nauvis, I would recommend a standing army of 100 Spidertrons. You could just fit them with standard stuff. Just literally go to your overview and then shift click, create a massive path for them to go walk, and then basically just leave them to go and just mop everything up. It doesn't even look as if you lose too many either. Currently my building crew in the game is, I think, 5 legendary Spidertrons. I think there's over 4,000 robots being deployed. I mean, it's pretty effective, I've got to admit. And I think this works remarkably well. So definitely would not recommend. I mean, I guess it does work for Gleba. So I was thinking about kind of practicalities of this. What you could do, and it's a shame you can't set up patrol routes, because then this would become a real RTS in my mind, is you could just literally create a sort of loop for them just to kind of run around. So like a bit like a train saw, if you know the idea of a train saw. It kind of is a bit like that, but not really for Spidertrons. You can't kind of give them a route to follow permanently, unless I'm wrong. Post in the comments if I'm wrong. And also, it would be nice if there's a mod maybe that could give that capability as well. Again, not really needed though, because 1 rocket per Stomper, and even the big Stompers don't take much rockets to kill. It becomes. But you'll see that we're about to get ready and go kill them. But I think it's been an interesting test. I think Spidertrons have incredible utility. It was a weird addition. I always remember when they added them, it was a very, very strange, to me it's strange to add this kind of spider. It's like, I don't get it. Like, why spiders? Like, what's the relevance to the engineer at this point? Like, why did they pick a spider? Because you'd gone from kind of Jeep to tank. Well, why not then a mega tank? But no, they picked a Spidertron. I don't care. I mean, it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I think it's definitely been a challenge. And I think one of the things maybe to kind of factor in is a good set of blueprints here would solve everything. Like just having that ability to have the right equipment from the ship. I mean, getting everything onto the ship was less difficult than you would think. It was actually relatively quite straightforward. With the, I don't know, you haven't seen any of the shorts that we're doing at the moment, please do go check them out, because there's a few wonderful ones. One particularly is my favorite, Solar Empire, because that shows the spaceport alpha running. You may remember I made this incredible spaceport. I think we showed it at the start of this video. Definitely worth building something like that. If you have a mega base, you have to have the exchange of materials from orbit to the ground as strong and capable as possible. You need a strong stream of material. I think that's quite important. excusing the obvious joke there, but I think it's relatively useful to have that. And so, for example, 20,000 rockets being sent up into orbit, no problem. Incredibly wasteful, ridiculously wasteful, in fact. But you know, when you've got the resources to do this, why wouldn't you do it? In fact, it makes even easier sense to build everything on Nauvis, which is in a mega base situation, and then just bung it on a rocket. But anyway, there we go. So here we go, the RTS part of the video. So now we begin really just trying to figure out, are 100 Spidertrons going to be able to stand, Stompers? And as you can see from these early engagements and skirmishes, it's a bit easy actually, because each Spidertron is a bit like, say, the spidery bug things from the Matrix. So they kind of just know how much damage to deal, and then they only fire that many rockets. I mean, the prime example you just saw there, 1 rocket per person, or per squidgy weird 5-arm thing. Kind of funny, right? It makes me kind of laugh actually, the weird way the game works, in that it just knows how much damage to kind of send to the target. I think that's, I don't know, is that lazy? I don't want to say something negative about the game, because I am literally one of its priestesses in a weird way. I do feel like I have kind of like a love for this game that goes a little bit too deep. And I think it's interesting how they've just worked it out. Okay, X damage from this equals therefore that, and kill that, and therefore this. And I think it's a bit like, I'd rather a lot of guns fire than not. Isn't it like that with the space asteroidy things? Question mark. Because when you're going along, I've seen rockets, area of effect rockets, fire at asteroids that are already destroyed. Aha! Have we found something here? Maybe it's the area of effect. Rockets are more dumbfire. They fire, and even if the target's destroyed, they'll hit where... I think that's probably it, isn't it? Because these are just kind of direct, 1 target per hit sort of things. Maybe that's it. Post in the comments. Share with me your intelligence and understanding of this game, which is obviously far superior to mine. And I think we shall then be able to answer that question, which is, it's a bit lackluster. I think fighting Stompers in this is quite easy actually. So even when we come across a big nest like this, it just deployed 100 Spidertrons, so that's 400 rocket launchers. So there's a capacity there per second of like 800 rockets, I think. So unless there's 800 targets in the local area per second, there's not a lot to worry about here. And I think that's where biters are more numerous, and there's more of them. And plus there's also the I guess their infrastructure as well. So It was a concept. We had to finish it. This is the final video ending of it, and it's all a bit of a damp squib. And I think it is, I'm glad I did it, but I don't think we'd do this again, because that's it. There's no, we can't take 100 Spidertrons. Well, sorry, let me try that again. We could take 100 Spidertrons to Aquilo. What would be the point? I mean, it'd be funny if they froze. That would actually be quite funny, but I think there's not a huge reason to maybe do that. I'm curious to try the other modded worlds, because I'm sure there's sort of ambient threat there. I think I saw one was like an old war zone, so there's like turrets and things that shoot you, so that's pretty cool. We will get to that point eventually. As with most things, these sort of videos and what I do, I mean, I probably shot this footage a month ago. And that's the sad truth of, just not really having a huge amount of time to do this. I think it's good. I mean, here we go. It's more of a challenge here. That looks pretty scary, right? I mean, that's a change of underwear moment right there. But easy, just mop them up. Again, 800 targets per second. Am I right with that? It feels like I am. And it just feels like it has the ability to stomp, destroy, and clear. So purge, if you will. And I think it's a shame in a way, because I do find the Stompers a really interesting challenge. But I think it's interesting because I wonder if they've not got the calculation right for how Stompers attack you, because what I've noticed so far is the spores build up, the spores then activate an egg sac, and then it produces 1 or 2 big Stompers that just come for you. I don't know if that's right. It should be that they more kind of gather like the biters do and then hit you in a wave. It feels like they don't do that as much. I've seen them do something, like you've seen a few, one large one and a few of the sort of fast zippy range ones, but it feels as if there's something not quite right. And I'd love to see a mod or something that builds much more intelligence into the Stomper, because the fast one should be able to run up, shoot something at your turrets, and then run away before, like, I don't know, a flame round hits them. Things like that I think would be quite compelling. But let's see. We will get to the mods. I think at the moment it's just a bit of a challenge getting everything done. I have this like list of things that I want to try and do, you see, and there's always things like, when I kind of came up with this idea of 100 Spidertrons just stomping around, I think it was mostly to kind of see if they'd be worthwhile doing it, because obviously you can have, I still would love to do the 100 tanks. I think the 100 tanks would be hilarious, because I'd love to see friendly fire with that as well. How many uranium rounds are going to basically destroy everything now? And the other one would be if you could load railguns into some of these as well, because railguns just destroy everything in their path. So having like Spidertrons, you can fit nukes into them. That's funny. And maybe that's what we do. We finish this little mini series with like a 100 Spidertron nuclear challenge, where we fit a nuclear weapon to every single one of them, and we send them into the middle of a biter patch, and then basically see who comes out the other end intact. Because I would bet not many would. We wouldn't fit them legendary. They'd be fit with basic stuff. So one nuke round, probably all of them dead. But watching 100 Spidertrons fire a nuke, I'm compelled to witness that. I think that could be interesting. So this marks the end of our kind of little foray to Gleba. I left with my head hung low, because genuinely I thought this didn't work very well. But you've got to try these things, and I think if there's one piece of advice I would give, in fact, I will give you another story. Sorry, but you clicked on this channel, so you have to suffer the stories every so often. I always remember feeling great pride back in the day when I used to do YouTube videos for Dust 514, an old game of CCP games that was like a run around free shooter. It's very good, actually. I quite enjoyed it. Many of you will know it, some of you won't. The thing that gave me real joy is I'm always a believer of just go start, just do something, and I always felt very prideful when people would message me. And again, I'm not being an egotist here, because they were way better than me, but there were people that messaged me to say, you just saying, literally record something and then just talk as if you sat down the pub with your mates and just have a chat. And I tell you what, it's a very effective way to think about creating content, really. And I got real pride of the fact that there are numerous sort of Dust 514 channels that popped up because they were kind of inspired by the fact that there's nothing weird about sitting in a room and talking into a microphone, talking over some game footage and giving your view of it. And again, if that sounds really egotistical, please don't think it is. It's not. I always think it's very cathartic to do things like this. So I would totally recommend anyone wanting to go and do content, just do it. Nothing's stopping you. And I think it's all about, if you get something from the process, because art, it's an art form. You're creating a video, you're presenting something to the world, and I think that's kind of cool. So I hope you agree. And there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.